World Heritage Sites are like this across the world. Doesn't matter which part of the world you're in, what country that with laws and governing protection you're in, apart from Japan. Just recently, some chap from Canada trying to engrave his name on one of the oldest Buddhist structures in Nara. And that's because of aberrant behaviors that have been educated through so-called Western education. And this is picked up from Hollywood and Bollywood and all kinds of other so-called social media outlets that are promoting people to behave in the same aberrant ways as the Western society is today. They have done so for many hundreds of years, if not for at least a millennia or two across the world. Instead of exploring and appreciating the history of those lands, they've kept a very brutal, not so-called brutal, very painful reality on the ground today. That same reality is translated into so-called plastic, as well as the ice cream man is selling stuff in packages, in plastic packages, water bottles. I'm not carrying any today, of all kinds. There's one there, drunk. It's 38 degrees temperature here. I poured water onto my towel so that it keeps me at least rejuvenated. And at the same time, we've found ourselves volumes of plastic that's floating around the world that is painful to look at. And other factors are such that who am I to address the civic situations across the world? It is down to the individual parents, the teachers, the education, the relevant education, and so-called, as I sit here, I see another tower through that little gap. It's magical. Amongst all of this distraction that I've got, I have this attention to detail that for me is so wonderful to see. Look at every crevice, recess I see, through I see engineering marvel from 500 years ago that then got neglected. It stood here for 500 years of turmoil, utter devastation to the land, the people, the structures they built in the name of power. And yes, the towers that protected and held the old powers have now disappeared, and that has become the reality. It's a beautiful breeze flowing through this little archway for me as a blessing of what nature is all about and life is all about. As I look down the courtyards of the old town, oh, there's the ice cream spot. There's no tourists for the ice creams. It's a Sunday. Where are the people who should learn the history of this nation? The Mughal Empire positioned or posed themselves here and used this as a garrison military compartment or department to advance their reaches to the furthest Asian points as possible. And as I sit and reflect on the history and the reality of this nation and the landscape, I am at the same time feeling utterly painful for the present day realities of life and humanity across the world, and the way that we've created our societies is a detrimental to our future and our existence, and so-called the future relies on the relevant ideas, the relevant indications that we pose and impose on our children. And it's not anything about how you should derive what you could not achieve through your children by forcing them your ideals that are old and non-relevant. If there's held an iota of relevance in the history, or the way how the history has continued, we failed right at the onset, because the mistakes that we made are so severe that we have abandonment, we have neglect. It's not just the fault here, it's the neglect in the entirety of human evolution or the human advances. Or we've advanced, you may question. We have advanced in many ways, from the caveman to our forefathers who were, that we challenge their ideals to make their lives comfortable and less burdensome. Yet we've created an empowerment on the individual basis and the individual position, that today that empowerment is shackling us, trapped us, enslaved us beyond that we understand in our own conduct. I can continue with words, I can continue with notion of my emotions, or notion of my journey in life. But when you look here, in total absence of humans and nature and structures, you will understand what I mean by human conduct. We build all this to protect ourselves. It's called the self-preservation of some few individuals, but it did not preserve for long. You can't preserve life. Only dead things can be preserved. Life should be explored. Life should be experienced. Life should be allowed to thrive, allowed to blossom, allowed to enrich through many ways as to who we will become. Even then, we are just a speck in this existence, and that very speck is insignificant. So-called, what is significant is that you reached a point, or at least you come to a conscious, meaningful self-discipline without the need of the other, to realize the very step you take outward will only begin once you have stepped inwards. That very step inwards is the only way out. And that is all I can say. That's all I can understand in my journey. And step backwards means you might go down those steps and shall not exist until such time I will continue to explore the beyond, the self-preservations and the walls of self-imprisonment, and learn to become of one that lives and walks upon this earth with gentleness, that the very earth will start reverberating back the very speck of insect life to a microbial life will not be altered in the way I live, and my gentleness may allow the significant life such as the microbial life and the bacterium that keeps me alive to thrive, so that a new generation of fresh life can thrive, and the next generation could also experience the same what I experienced today and during my life to a higher place, and I will leave the world that I lived and shared a little bit better than how I found it when I came here 54 years ago almost. And those plastics may not save us. Some might say it is just insignificant in terms of the existence. It is. But if all of us think this way, that it is not significant and that we throw what we bring as plastic, we might end up in a pile of plastic, and ourselves and our lives will also be buried underneath that plastic mound that I see as we drive around this landscape and elsewhere in the world. Thank you.